Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into a really big idea, one that sits right at the edge of physics and philosophy. What if the universe isn't just a vast collection of stuff, but more of a presence that is slowly waking up?
You know, the usual story science tells us is that we're a cosmic accident, just a lucky roll of the dice in a huge, indifferent void. But what if that whole story is backwards? What if our awareness, your awareness, isn't some random biological quirk, but the entire point of the cosmos itself?
This question really forces us to pick between two powerful ways of looking at reality. On one hand, you've got the clockwork cosmos. It's impersonal, it's mechanical, and we're just a meaningless accident. On the other hand, you have the sentient organism, a living, purposeful presence that's striving for self-awareness, with us playing a key role in that process.
So, here's our game plan. First, we'll get into why this idea is even on the table right now. Then, we're going to build the case for a conscious cosmos. After that, we'll look at the scientific counterargument, and finally, we'll ask the big question, what would it actually mean to live in a universe that's looking back at us?
All right, so why are we asking this now? Well, it's because that old, purely mechanical model of the universe, it's starting to show some cracks. We're running into deep mysteries in both physics and in understanding our own minds.
And right at the heart of it all is what philosophers call the hard problem of consciousness. See, science is amazing at mapping the physical brain. It can tell us how the neurons fire, but it has absolutely no explanation for why any of that activity feels like something from the inside. Why you experience the color red or the taste of coffee. That gap in our understanding is so profound, it's forcing us to look for entirely new ways of thinking about reality. So, if the universe could be conscious, how would that even work? Well, the argument for it isn't based on one single piece of evidence. It's more about weaving together three really interesting and, pretty controversial ideas.
These three ideas are like the pillars holding up the theory. You've got panpsychism, the anthropic principle, and a really radical take on quantum physics. Together, they paint a picture of a universe that seems, well, almost designed for a mind to show up and observe it.
First up, panpsychism. Now, this one's a trip. It suggests that consciousness isn't rare, it's not some special thing that magically appears in brains. Instead, it's a fundamental property of matter itself, just like mass or electrical charge. Now, this doesn't mean electrons are worried about their exams. It just means they might have some incredibly primitive, basic form of experience. This idea kind of solves the hard problem by saying that truly non-conscious matter just doesn't exist.
The second pillar is the anthropic principle. This is something that has physicists scratching their heads. They've discovered that the fundamental numbers that govern our universe, they are exquisitely, precisely fine-tuned, balanced in this incredibly narrow range that allows for life to exist. Basically, the universe looks suspiciously tailor-made for observers like us.
And this fine-tuning is unbelievably specific. I mean, if you just tweak gravity a tiny amount, stars would burn out way too fast for life to ever evolve. If you changed the energy of empty space just a little, galaxies would have never even formed in the first place. The universe is balanced on a razor's edge. So is that just an incredible stroke of luck, or is it a clue to its real nature?
Okay, the third pillar is probably the most mind-bending of all. It comes from the brilliant physicist John Archibald Wheeler. He called it the participatory universe. He argued that the famous observer effect in quantum mechanics isn't just a weird quirk. He believed it means we aren't just passive onlookers. Instead, our very acts of observation are necessary to take all the weird quantum possibilities and collapse them into one concrete reality.
Wheeler put it this way: it from bit. The physical world, the it, actually arises from information, the bit, that's generated by our observations. So, when you put these three pillars together, you get this incredible picture. A universe that is fundamentally conscious, that's fine-tuned for observers, and that is then made real by those very observers just by looking at it.
It's a breathtaking idea, right? Almost poetic. But it flies directly in the face of the mainstream scientific consensus. So let's look at the other side. How does the orthodox view push back?
Well, the standard view is called physicalist emergentism. The argument here is that consciousness is an emergent property, kind of like the wetness of water. A single H2O molecule isn't wet, but when you get a whole bunch of them together, wetness emerges. In the same way, one neuron isn't conscious, but when you wire together 86 billion of them in the incredibly complex network of the human brain, consciousness just emerges from that complexity.
So panpsychism has a couple of major problems, according to its critics. First, it's pretty much scientifically untestable. I mean, how could you ever run an experiment to see if an electron is conscious? And second, there's the big one, the combination problem. If all the little atoms in your brain have their own tiny microminds, how do they all combine to create your single, unified, continuous consciousness? Critics say that's just as hard a problem as the one it's trying to solve.
And those other two pillars? They have strong rebuttals too. The fine-tuning of the universe? Well, that could be explained by a multiverse. If there are infinite universes out there, one of them was bound to get the settings right, and we just happen to live in that lucky one. The quantum observer? Most physicists today say that's a misconception. It's not about a conscious mind. Any physical interaction, even from a machine, is enough to collapse the wave function.
So what we're left with is this landscape of different theories, and each one has its own major challenge. Emergentism can't really crack the hard problem. Panpsychism runs smack into the combination problem, and the participatory model is largely rejected by mainstream physics. Right now, no single theory gives us a complete, satisfying answer.
Okay, so given this huge scientific debate, let's shift gears and ask, so what? Let's just say for a minute that the participatory universe model is true. What would that actually mean for us, for our purpose, and for how we live our day-to-day lives?
Well, it would mean a fundamental shift in how we think about purpose. We'd go from the existentialist idea of inventing our own meaning in a cold, silent cosmos to discovering our purpose. Our role, our cosmic job, would be to act as the universe's sensory organs, to bring it into being just by observing it. We'd go from being cosmic orphans to cosmic necessities.
This idea also totally rewrites our ethics. If everything is conscious, then everything has some kind of moral status. But that leads to a cosmic problem of evil. If everything can feel, then the universe is a place filled with almost infinite suffering, and it would still force us to make really tough decisions about whose consciousness matters most, which is a profound and maybe impossible moral framework to live by.
Ultimately, science alone just can't give us the final answer here. The evidence we have can be used to support either story. So the choice between seeing the universe as an indifferent machine or a sentient organism, that's not really a scientific choice. It's a philosophical one. It lives on that fuzzy border where physics meets metaphysics.
Which leaves us with a question that really gets at the heart of the human condition. Are we just stardust that, by some incredible accident, became aware of itself? Or are we something much more? Are we the cosmos itself, finally waking up? The answer might just lie in which story you choose to live.